Welcome to the last week of our series, Make an Impact. In this series, we've been talking about how our lives can make an impact. Do you remember how we can make an impact? We can make an impact by being more like Jesus. We've been talking about having Jesus's priorities and having Jesus's attitude. And today, we're going to talk about actually going and choosing to make an impact. As followers of Jesus, we're told to go and to invite. And we're to follow Jesus' example. Jesus would walk up to his disciples and just tell them, "Come and follow me." And those guys would just drop what they were doing and follow him. Why? Why did they do that? Because he asked and because he went. Our series memory verse shows how we can truly make an impact by going and inviting. 2 Timothy 4:5 says this, "But you should keep a clear mind in every situation. Don't be afraid of suffering for the Lord. Work at telling others the good news and fully carry out the ministry God has given you." Notice that line, work at telling others the good news. That's inviting others to see their potential relationship with God. We can share the good news of what Jesus has done through our own stories, and we can make an impact on the people around us. How does this work? Well, it's really simple. You might have a friend that isn't a follower of Jesus. You can tell that friend when it's the right time about how having a relationship with Jesus has changed your life. They might ask some questions and you can answer honestly. And if you don't know the answer, just say, "I don't know the answer, but I'll look into it." Here's the best part. You can invite them to come with you to church, or you can ask them some questions about what they think about a relationship with Jesus. And when you do this, you're living as a disciple and you're following Jesus' command in Matthew 28, verses 19 through 20. "Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I've given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." Jesus tells us to go and make disciples. That means inviting others to be a follower of Jesus. So today, I want you to remember this one thing. When I go, I make an impact. The more we live this out as followers of Jesus, not only will we make an impact on the lives of those we share Jesus with, but we too will grow. This is God's principle of sowing and reaping. As I sow into others through discipleship, I grow. I grow the most in my faith when I help others grow in their faith. So we're called to go and make an impact. Well, how do we do that practically? We can look at Paul's, one of the writers of the Bible, as an example of going. We're going to read about his first missionary journey in Acts chapter 3. One day as these men were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, "Appoint Barnabas and Saul for the special work to which I've called them." So after more fasting and prayer, the men laid their hands on them and sent them on their way. So Barnabas and Saul were sent out by the Holy Spirit. This is such a powerful start to their missionary journey. Paul and Barnabas spent time in prayer and worship, and they were fasting. They were focusing on Jesus along with some other men, and the Holy Spirit led these men to send out Paul and Barnabas to spread the love of God to others. So, number one, go when and where the Holy Spirit leads. These guys had a very clear calling from the Holy Spirit. Jesus gives us his Spirit who lives in us, leads us, directs us, and guides us when we make him the leader of our lives. We have to slow down and listen to him and then obey. The Holy Spirit talks to us in so many different ways. He talks to us through worship songs. He can give you a word through your pastor or a leader, or through the Bible, or when you're praying and you get a clear thought in your mind that seems like a really good idea, an idea that is too good to just be something that you came up with on your own. Well, that's him. That's the Holy Spirit, and he wants to speak to you, and you can hear his voice. Now, I want to clarify that going and making disciples doesn't mean that you have to go across the globe. It can be right here, right now where you are, with your best friend, your sibling, your parents, or that kid in class that you talk to every once in a while. Making disciples happens around you no matter where you are. So, how can we practically go and make an impact? Well, number one, go when and where the Holy Spirit leads. And number two, go and teach about Jesus. If we look back at Paul and Barnabas' story, they were sent out to share the love of Jesus with others on a mission trip. I want you to understand how important it is to go and make disciples. This isn't just some rule that we just made up or some old thing that the church has just always done. This is a command from Jesus to you and to me. I want us to read it again in Matthew 28, verses 19 through 20. Therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Jesus led the way for us to go and make disciples. He was a friend of sinners to whom he gave the good news and made them his followers. And he has called us and invited us into his incredible mission. As we live this out in our lives, we will make an eternal impact. So I want to challenge you to commit to living this out. This week, I want you to identify one person you know who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. Pray for that person every day and begin to share your story of your relationship with Jesus with them.